let's go ahead and get started. We're recording this. We're going to push out notes anyway, so folks will be able to catch up. And so we can go ahead and get the show going. Appreciate you guys' patience there and patience with my technical issues. And so it has been about 3 weeks since the code has gone live, and we've done a bunch of crazy, or the developers have been hard at work playing around with the tech that's been released. And I think, Ash, one of the best explanations as to what's happening is the entire team, those developers, are working on things, and we don't really have a fully fleshed out UI. We don't have audio working, and they're still creating like crazy. So I kind of want to get your perspectives and kind of tell us where you're at, what you see going on, and get your feelings for how the team is, how the community is going, and then we can start working through some questions that I've seen come through the chats and would like to cover with you, and then we could share these with the rest of the community so they can keep up to date on what's been happening since last week.
Yeah, cool. So it's pretty cool to see people building with even with just what we have. Like, I mean, it's pretty capable, but obviously missing a lot of UI and stuff like that, which is something that we want to focus on next. I can give a quick overview on where we're at with everything. So in terms of the core engine, I think it to me feels like we're kind of 80% there, and that last 20% is just a few things that we need to fill in to kind of catch back up to V1, really. We need to have the ability to play audio. We need to throw in voice chat as an option for people that are hosting worlds that they want to use. And that'll be something, I think for voice chat, we'll just have an environment variable that'll let people kind of turn their thing in. I know this isn't very dev focused, right? So I should probably stay too much away from dev. But yeah, I think the call's coming along. There's just a couple of things missing. We need to be able to put web views in there so that you can and screen sharing and that kind of stuff. But the core call, the actual ability to make games, ability to make experiences and do all that kind of stuff is all good. World building is pretty good. I think that we need to kind of improve a little bit more on the tools for moving things around, and there's some discussions around which direction we should take for that with more control over moving things. We are working with a couple of people who are building assets and kits and stuff that will just basically probably end up giving away to the community to use. That should help you make some pretty cool worlds and just connect a bunch of pieces together and create nice looking cool worlds. And a couple of things that have come out of that are things like snap points. So being able to have road pieces that you would be able to connect together, and being able to configure how all those things snap together. And there's a couple of ways that we can do that. One is which we just kind of have a grid snap where you say this road is a 1 meter by 1 meter piece, or 10 meters by 10 meter piece. And so when you move it around in the world, it'll kind of snap to 10 meter grid points. And then the other snap point idea is that you actually put literal points inside the asset, and those will snap to other points that have matching types, I guess. And so that'll kind of make it a lot easier for creators to basically encode how their stuff should work together and how they connect together. But it'll also make it a lot easier for people who aren't who don't want to have a transform widget to kind of spend hours trying to get things to move around and fit how they need to. It's all kind of
When you say those points on a model, those are the anchor points that I've heard people talking about having.
The anchor thing is different. The anchor thing is basically what is going to enable us to have vehicles that you get into, and chairs and stuff like that. So an anchor point is essentially just a point that you put somewhere in an app. And if you interacted with that app, you would be able to, the script inside that app would be able to anchor the player to that. So it could be a seat that you sit in to drive a car. It could be a couch that you sit on or a bed that you lie down on, and you can kind of control the animation of the player that when they get attached to that anchor point. And we had something similar to this in V1.
Got it. Yeah, I think I remember. Yeah, the vehicle stuff. So, and that point about the prefabs also answers one of the questions I had. Is I know we were looking at that. If there's any previews that you guys can give on some of those assets. I know you said ramps and foliage.
I can open some real quick.
Yeah, you could throw down some examples of what those prefabs would be. So essentially what I'm hearing is that there's that basic UI stuff that's being worked on from a technical perspective, but then also builder quality of life, providing some pre-made assets for the builders to just go into a world and put things together. And then also even have voice enabled. And so Ash, you said like 20% of the way there in terms of what we had. So not all the bells and whistles for V1, but at least the core V1 functionality is about 20% of the left.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we have like, if we add voice chat and audio, then we're kind of like, you can have full-fledged worlds already. But yeah, there's lots of little bits and pieces. Like some people want to have web views so they can show websites in there. Just on the like asset stuff. So we were like Odd City just approached us after we mentioned that we wanted to build some kits, and they built a really cool like house prefab kit type thing, which had like a lot like walls and doors and platforms and windows and railings and that kind of stuff. I don't know if Saria even can see that, but somewhere, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's kind of like, sorry.
Is it in here? Or what are we looking at?
No, that wasn't from Unchained. I can't remember if I even shared it with you, to be honest. I think I sent you a link to a world. But that was basically for building a house. Kind of like, I think it would end up being a lot like Sims, kind of building a house where you just kind of like connect all the walls together. But one of the things that I'm really more interested in is trying to have kits like the ones that Sari is showing, is just having like a lot of quite big modular pieces that you can connect together, and that'll let you kind of build like, you know, if you're having an event, you would just be able to put a stage, have a little area for the people to stand in, chill out in, you get VIP rooms, and just kind of like quickly put something together. And we can probably do this in different styles and themes and stuff like that as well. But it just kind of like gives people something to do straight away, people who aren't creators and devs, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep, and then those are things that could be snapped together, snapped to grid, all that type of functionality. It sounds like.
Yeah, and some of those pieces will have full interactivity built into them as well. So like the doors and stuff, they can have automatic doors that you walk up to and they open. And that kind of leads us to the next part, which is the way that apps will work. So I've mentioned this before, but basically the apps will be downloadable and shareable, tradable, collectible. And there'll be essentially marketplaces that anyone can build. We'll probably build our own as well, which is just purely just so that people who aren't creators can just have a huge list of things that they can just grab and bring into their world. And just search for something and find it. It's kind of like Sketchfab, except not like it's specific. Like Sketchfab is just 3D models, but I kind of want to do something similar to that, but also have all the collision, all the rules, and like all the interactivity and stuff is all built into those things as well.
Yeah, basically metaverse compliant objects that actually are work and they're not like 500,000 triangles and
yeah, fully optimized, ready to go, ready to drop in. I think sometimes like if you in V1 we had this problem where people would like grab something from Sketchfab and they bring it into their world, and that's fine because they're not like 3D artists, they're not devs, they don't know how that stuff works. But the problems that they run into are like, some of those Sketchfab assets are like huge draw calls. When you drop them into the world, if they're weirdly scaled, you'll find that like a building is actually the size of the United States and have to scale it down, and that gets a little bit weird. and all the collision and stuff isn't really optimized, and yeah, you get all sorts of stuff there. So we'll solve all of those problems with having like a dedicated kind of format for apps that are interoperable across any world hosted anywhere.
Yeah, and then the vision or the goal, eventual goal, I would say, is we work with other folks that are building open metaverses and figuring out what type of standards, guidelines to like cross certify to say, hey, yeah, this is good for Hyperfy, this is good for whatever, and so definitely, I think that's one of the things. We have a question from Omka here. For sounds, would it be useful to make a marketplace of sound clips that cost Hyper? I think that kind of goes along the way of that app marketplace that is being envisioned as well, right? In this case, with sounds, though, that's like content that others have created. Because, so I guess, yeah, could you think about what the newspaper?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I obviously don't want to try and reinvent the wheel. I think that wherever we can, we should try to utilize things that already exist. And there are plenty of places online that have sound effects that are ready to go. And really a sound effect really, or, background audio, ambient noises and stuff like that are really just an MP3 file. And you basically want to choose whether it's spatial audio or if it's kind of like ambient noise that's heard everywhere. Other than that, I don't think we really need to have, we could have something like that in the marketplace for sure, but there are already places that have, that already kind of like specifically do all of that.
Yeah, and maybe the different flavor there is to maybe enable like a search plugin, maybe like have a fly out menu that you can click on and it takes you to that marketplace, maybe.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we could index audio that's popular and stuff like that. Connect people to all of that for sure.
Yeah. And then I know, sorry, thank you for showing some of the stuff on the screen. That's the Hyperphone. Is this live? Like, are you showing this just?
Yeah, I just went to Howie's world.
Yeah. Nice.
And Howie's kind of like, I don't know. I think we're just going to take a lot of ideas from him. He, like, we can't take this entire thing as it is right now, but we can, take or make it clean, kind of like very minimal.
Yeah, I think that the phone is really awesome, and like we should definitely be doing something similar to that. But my worry is trying to bring in too much of it at once. So I think if we start with like fundamentals, then it will be good, and it can just obviously evolve, and it will probably end up looking a lot like this in the end anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and then folks that are not completely familiar with the Howie Hyperphone, let me see if I have I don't think I have a link handy right now, but essentially the Howie does it has built a branch where he created a UI to interact with the elements within the world and be able to connect things and manage things from that UI. And he built it or based it on like a phone. And he basically created an operating system within the Hyperfy world that you can open up and interact with, and it behaves kind of like a phone and lets you access a bunch of things throughout the world to set settings, connect your blockchain wallet, pull data, and even in some cases access the terminal to modify files. So that's on the technical side, but the concept is basically have an operating system that you can then access. And the coolest thing that he showed on Tuesday, so I'll drop a link to that because he demoed some of that on the Tuesday call, was the ability to call people through other through the hyper worlds. And so you could connect with other people that are not even in the same hyper world that you're in. And then you could message to Discord and back, and you could have two-way communication between Discord and whatever Hyperfy world you're in. And so that is definitely pretty powerful stuff that he's been playing around with.
Yeah, and having the phone like all isolated in there, I think I've said this before, but like having it kind of all together means that it can also be turned off for people who don't want to do that. Like One of the goals here is to create tech that can be used by anyone for anything, and kind of just become the standard way to build any kind of digital, like web-based worlds for gaming or just experiences, purely because of how simple it is to kind of like quickly put something together and not have to worry about hiring a team to design 3D assets and build multiplayer, like fully persistent worlds, which is probably going to cost you like, $300K and 6 months of dev time, whereas you could just turn on a Hyperfy world and disable like all the branding and stuff and rebrand it to your own thing and have it more like a white label thing, so that people like, Duck Chain can have their own duck worlds, and Pudgy Penguins can have their own like fully branded like little Pudgy game and stuff like that, without having to like feel like they shouldn't use our tech just because it has Hyperfy branded stuff everywhere, or whatever.
Yeah, and it kind of I was on a call earlier today. We were talking about the last NFT cycle where all the projects were offering 3D objects, and it took months, a year to deliver a 3D model. And something like Hyperfy would enable the ability to take any experience, any promise to deliver an experience that's web accessible and just flip a switch, like you say, and have that branding. So very powerful what the Hyperfy is going to be able to do. Sorry, is that like a big rock that was imported?
Yeah, I can't remember why. I was testing it for someone who had issues.
And so I know
my world's very boring right now. I need to do something, but just been busy.
Yeah, you need some hyperspace. You need to get Howie's hyperspace background stuff in there. Mm-hmm. So, sorry, could you give us so moving a little bit away from the developer stuff, we'll take some more questions. From an organizational perspective, I know one of the things you were focused on is partnerships. So if you can share something about the agents, how that's going, and then also about DAOs. I know you only have like 10 minutes to go, but go ahead, cover some updates you got for the group here.
All right. So we've been talking to kind of, I think, I don't know, it's tough. I have questions for Ash too, but I think like the main partnership type things we're doing is we have a friend who has this like pretty like relatively popular agent project, and it's based on his own framework. And we've been sending him what we did with Eliza so that he can hook up his own stuff to it. And they're like getting 3D assets together and stuff. That's one thing. I've talked to a few people who are running agent projects, and I think a little bit of why it's slow is like they have these personalities and characters, but they don't have 3D assets and they don't know where to get them from. So it's like a little bit of a process there. And then on our end, we need to like make the agents a little bit more sophisticated. Right now, when you chat or whatever, there's like, I don't know, a bit of latency, and we need to figure that out and add movement and stuff like that. And then we've been talking to people who provide hosting services for Eliza. And the way it is right now, is this an agent? Nah. The way it is right now, if you I can't block my screen. Yeah. Basically, if these are agents, you get a URL that points to your Eliza server, and you just put it in there, and then after that, it's pretty easy. So we're trying to obfuscate that part of the process. We want people to be able to like not really we want to deal with other services and partner with them, but we don't want the users to feel like there's another service there type thing. So those are kind of the dynamics in play right now to get us to our goal of having easy to build and customize agents with no code. And like you can resource assets from wherever you want online for free. stuff like that.
Something that I just realized is that when we have like importable apps, exportable apps, is that because it's kind of like we'll have tools for building all these apps and stuff programmatically as well, so people can create generators for apps and things. It's entirely likely that if we find the right person, or anyone could do this really, that like you could go to some AI agent platform that lets you create agents, and they could give you an app that you could drop into a world without having to need to do anything else.
Mm-hmm. And then in terms of DAO stuff, we've been like talking to various salespeople and lawyers to like really make sure that we're going in the right direction. And at first, like it was going to be easy because we were going to make a program for token voting. So like basically the token holders could determine what happens with the treasury at their own discretion. And there wouldn't need to be an entity involved in it because it would be a decentralized process. But I'm in agreement with most of the community that is like frustrated with how the proposal systems have gone in the past, where like it'll usually just be like a few whales who pass something, and sometimes it could be like extractive or toxic and stuff. So we're trying to get a better entity set up for that, so that we could be like a little bit more use like a certain amount of funds at our own discretion, just for like bounties basically is the main thing that we'd want. I don't know if you guys have seen D-Work before, but we like it. It's just a place where you can go and be like, hey, we want someone to do this for this amount of tokens. And we just want to get it set up to where we can do that easily with no stress. So I guess I probably like, I don't know, there's a few different ways to do it. Like, and we've made some progress there. We mostly just have to like talk to a lawyer now and do the paperwork, I think. So,
yeah, and Paul mentioned something called Coordinate as well.
Yeah, Coordinate. I used to work for a year in finance. Who mentioned that?
Pablo FM.
Nice. Yeah, that's how I used to get paid when I worked for Yearn, and they built it. I haven't seen it used in forever, but it's kind of cool. I think D-Work is a little bit better because Coordinate, basically you get like a pool of contributors and they all vote for each other's salary. So it's like, or not salary, but like monthly payment. So it's like, oh, I think this person contributed a lot, and then there's like a fixed allocation every month, and then like it's distributed based off of like what your coworkers think. You know, coworkers is a bad word for that, but you get the point probably.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. But that's pretty much it with... No, it's all good.
Yep. Sorry, I had to hard time finding the unmute button. And so in the meantime, we do have bounties that we could kind of use. But yes, at the moment, the DAO is still in progress. Appreciate you, Sari, for kind of taking the step to take to protect the treasury from the past types of issues we've seen with token based voting, and definitely looking to how to incorporate the token holders to help support the direction without overwhelmingly influencing how the treasury actually is spent itself.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, we didn't expect to like our treasury became really valuable really quick, way faster than we expected. Like we kind of put the allocation aside, but hadn't really felt like we were mature enough to like be setting it up immediately. And then we went to like $300 million, and then suddenly the treasury was worth a lot. And then people were like, "Oh, why aren't you using this right now?" It's just because we couldn't predict that, you know. Like there was never a time when me and Ash were talking before our launch where we're like, "Oh, this is probably gonna go 300 million." Like, you know. It was just good and bad.
Yeah. And so let's. I don't think there's any more. Are there any questions before Sauri has to head out in terms of operations, partnerships? I know we've also started kind of focused attention on the core piece and making sure we're working with partners to make sure core gets to where it needs. When I say core, it's the base code of Hyperfy, and then there's going to be more apps on top of apps that support it. But is there anything else that anybody has, any questions or anything else you'd like to cover, Sauri?
No, I'd like to hear from other people mostly.
Yeah, Pablo asks how he can help. And I think that's one of the purposes of that organization working group that we just started today. And that is going to also help kind of coordinate all the people that are available to support and help cover some gaps that we have at the moment, and help kind of bring our resources together so we can support the developers. Really, I think that's the main thing, is let the developers build, and we could help kind of cover the rest of it. I know Fractillions is helping quite a bit with marketing and content stuff, so appreciate that, Fractillions, and sorry for help supporting us in doing our work here. Oh, question about hyperBALL. I see you're jumping around in there now. So is there anything you'd like to talk about, mention about hyperBALL before you have to drop?
So the core game loop of hyperball is good. I've been working on like trying to get some physics better, like better physics and stuff like that. In the last couple of days, I worked on getting like true physics on the server for players, which kind of gives us a little bit more stability, but also unlocks a whole lot more things that we can do with this in the future. And I think this was a really good test so far. You can actually like play it right now. I don't know if we can see it right on the screen. You can go there and have a play around. There's some things that I think we really need, like audio, and I think there's some things that we can do to make it more obvious when you're scoring points and stuff like that. And after playing around with it for a bit, I realized that we kind of need something like power-ups where you can, if you walk over a platform that gives you a power-up, like to run faster or something, that'll help you make the game more interesting. But yeah, at some point we should get a bunch of people in to play around for sure.
I think the main reason we're doing this is, well, first of all, it's like the first game that's really been made and published on Hyperfy v2. So like we are tweaking things as we go, and it's going to be a good example for other builders who want to make things after.
We really did like the hardest mode thing to begin with as well, like starting with multiplayer physics simulation. But I feel like if we can pull that off, then anything's possible. It's deceptively simple to look at it and be like, well, it's just a ball, and you can throw it around. But you're dealing with like latency of multiple people trying to hit a ball at the same time. That's all simulated on both the server, and all the clients are simulating the physics at the same time, and so you run into like rubber banding can happen. There's all sorts of things that can go wrong. But this has been a really good test. To be honest, like most of the code for the hyperball is like, I think it's like 300 lines of code. Because the engine takes care of everything else. But yeah, it's been good.
All right, guys, I gotta go eat with my parents, but it was nice talking to y'all.
Cool, man.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And then we had a question come up from Omka. Thank you so much for your questions and kind of sharing what you'd like to see or you're curious about. Let me see if I can get you up on stage. You could kind of describe what your use case is, and then we could talk through it a little bit. And then let me see if. Vox, you're on. So Vox, I'm going to invite you if you can talk. I know it's very late for you. If you can talk, sure. If not, it's cool. But Omka, go ahead. Say what you had your questions.
Which question did I have?
How's it
About
going,
what
man?
world, yeah.
How's it going? Oh, about not having a character. Yeah, so one of the ways that I've considered building out a world is to use it more like an infinite 3D website where you're not actually a character, but you're kind of just engaging with dashboards and stuff, so you can like swipe and different things. So I would want it more in like first person, I guess, or where you're not actually a character,
Oh yeah.
if that makes sense.
So I mean, this is something we can always branch out into, but right now we're focused on being like a world engine, so where you are kind of like physically embodied a player, an avatar.
Okay.
Right now, it's kind of like it's a third person kind of like view, but obviously we can expand to that. But we are primarily just like like a basic world engine that's 3D third person.
Yeah, but even though the native world or engine does that, I know, and this is why I called out Vox, because I've seen some of his worlds where he's playing with the camera and locking it and giving different perspectives to the point where it doesn't feel like you're in an
Yeah.
avatar.
Yeah, and we already have parts of that happening already. So like you can take control of the camera, and if you wanted to, you could pull it away from the avatar entirely. You could point it at some kind of 3D dashboard. Our UI, all of our UI and stuff like that has pointer events and whatever. So you could have like swiping on interfaces that like 3D interfaces all there. But then I think you would basically be bypassing all of the multiplayer world stuff.
Yeah, I guess I'm considering like multiplayer world, but then also, um, I mean, like for example, in Hyperball, like to be able to like pull up your like a stats dashboard or something and see
Oh yeah,
all the points,
yeah,
all
that's
the
doable.
power ups that you had, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've got UI nodes for that, so you can do like custom UI and place it wherever you want, and all of those things can
Perfect.
receive pointer events, hover events, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
let me link something mighty Meta Mike also had put together. Now I'm having some trouble finding it. The developer huddle. But yeah, he's contributed a what do you call it, a PR in order to get that as well. Let me see where this. I had the
Was
link.
that the for the images and stuff, or
Yeah,
so MetaMike's done a couple of things, and I've seen a couple of things floating around. One of which was the Rickbot, which was basically showing the UI, like bringing up an interface if somebody mentions a CA for any kind of token, that it would bring that up and let you look at a chart and flip through it, see all the details, market cap, whatever.
Yeah, and so I just posted in the link here the where he discusses it, and then and the link to the PR itself, so you could kind of see what it's about for the UI stuff. But yeah, there is definitely a lot of work being done to get UIs and dashboards, and you don't have to model it or anything. It's like there's like stuff that's baked into JavaScript. I think that provides that functionality, that view that you can easily modify, interact with. There was a question from Limbo about playable on the Quest. I think, Ash, that you have a Quest and you've done some development and testing from that Quest, right?
Yeah, so we don't have full WebXR yet, Limbo, but that is the goal. We're starting simple. I would say so we had it in V1, right? So you go on V1 Worlds, jump on a VR headset, and you'd be able to have full immersion. V1 was like kind of crazy that it even worked because the engine was a lot heavier than V2 is. So I'm really excited at some point to kind of add WebXR support so that people can do V2 Worlds in a headset, because the performance is just like, I think, a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the craziest thing about V1, that it was so open, any device accessible.
Yeah, Limbo. If this is something that you are like you guys want to work on, that's cool. I would say the thing that's really missing. So we have a player controller. We have a remote player. That's fine. You wouldn't need to touch that. You just need to look at the player local controller, and it's all in a file. And it's pretty much all you would need to modify is just to give it VR support for the controllers and head tracking. Hit me up. I can help you out with that for sure. Just like point you in the right direction.
Yep. Box, of course, yeah. I just would be happy. Love it.
For sure.
Yeah. Give his haunted house a makeover and redo in V2. Scare the hell out of everybody. So Pablo FM dropped a bunch of questions here. I want to, before we start knocking those out, are there any other questions out there from the group before we start going down Pablo's list here of components? And then I'm going to make this rapid fire. Actually, Pablo, if you'd like to, I'll put you up. Would you? Oh, I know it's late for you too. Pablo, would you like to speak? Talk through these questions?
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's late, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's we have a list of the things that we need to have like a minimal viable escape rooms experience, the ones that we did already build on V1. And once we get our ELISA operative system running, we are gonna go and jump into helping or building these respam, the teleport, the portals, the insert the password, and the digital goods or NFT delivery, and we have like a list that we can share and see if we can join people that are already building those apps or yeah.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think like if you think about it from a really high level, there are a lot of things that people can build, like devs building interactive things that could be super reusable by other people, maybe just reskinned with a different model or like slightly, different UI. So trying to build these kinds of things in public can kind of help inspire and share knowledge and make it easier for others, for sure.
Yeah, I can't sing enough praise about the kind of the focus on those escape room, because that is kind of a key area that you could spin up a lot of interactions and elements that are necessary to drive an immersive experience.
And interconnected apps as well, especially in an escape room type environment. You have like a lot of things that need to interact with each other, and that's where like cross app events and listeners and stuff like that will be useful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pablo. Let me see if there is. So definitely, I posted the link to the developer huddle. You kind of, for you non-technical folks, you could hop in there and kind of check out the type of stuff that's been shared, talked about, a couple games and some tools as well. How he does it has built some Blender tools. So if you folks are familiar with Blender, there's going to be.
Those are getting good.
Yeah, it's super powerful, and I'm hoping one day I'll see like send to world button, like you do everything you want in Blender, you press a button, it just sends it right to the world, and then it's there. That'll be fun to see.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't think that's impossible either. I think it kind of makes sense.
How he does is like, don't tempt me to it. I'll do it.
I would never say anything's ever impossible, but I think that's pretty cool. It'd be awesome to be like updating something, like doing 3DR or whatever, and it just magically updates in the world. That's when you hit save. That's cool.
Yeah, but I know how he's definitely advocated for giving us those primary controls, the be able to move, rotate, scale. That really is where.
Yeah.
Are you keeping a blog newsletter? It is going to be so. The information community calls so all the calls we're recording, transcribing, and posting those into the HackMD page. We have, I wouldn't call it a newsletter. It's more of just a running document or documents, collection of documents where we're storing everything that's related to the community, information we're sharing, links we're sharing as well. Let me pull that book up real quick. It's a community book. And essentially what we're doing with this community book is, where is this? What we're doing here is that there's the community documentation, and then there's the technical documentation, which is going to be on the Git repo, and Devil's Advocate is helping with that. There's Keezy as well as helping with that, and working with Ash to incorporate the technical documentation. But apart from that technical documentation, we are using or providing a community book, which links to all the information that we can find related to Hyperfy. And
Very
so,
cool.
yeah. And so with that, if you click on this, it'll take you to a collection of information. The cool thing here is that MetaMike has started a developer community, a communal article that has a bunch of technical developer tips and tricks. And then we've just been adding and collecting data. We've linked demo worlds that we're going to be able to link to any V2 worlds that are, our demos, and also linking to other articles. So you'll find all sorts of information right there on that book site. And so let's see what went on. Oh, Franctillions, thank you for having that link. I should have this bookmarked like in my clipboard, which reminds me of a feature that we could have Howie in his Hyperphone as like a clipboard that you could see what you've copy pasted. More work for him, right? And so, yeah, let me look through again my notes here, make sure we've talked through any other questions out there. Let's see. We did have an experiment with Meshi AI. So one goal with this agent stuff, or kind of the advanced integration with agents, AI, LLM, was the ability to just type in the chat to say, hey, I want this model or this object to be created, and it appears in the world. We've Ash, you did some prototyping. We still have some stuff left to be desired for that type of state. I'm going to drop an image here that I found very funny. Not to talk bad about Meshi AI, I think there's
that doesn't do it justice. The one that we I generated probably 5 while testing all this out, and they were all like super high quality and like anatomically correct, except for this one. And I asked for a giraffe for some reason. It did some kind of like anteater type thing with a giraffe texture.
It's actually a giraffe elephant. It has the face of a giraffe, but then an elongated neck.
A girelephant, yeah.
So I think one thing that's correct is that so the models were coming out not in a way that can be consumed and collide and have the collision and the behavior, but this is an example. And just like GPT 4 years ago gave you weird bad results.
I mean, ultimately in the future, I think this is the kind of thing that we'll all be using, even people who just can't be bothered jumping into Blender but know how to use it. It's just like auto-generating stuff. And with the experiments that I think that me and even others have like played around with, is that Meshi is probably the best thing that is out there right now. I'm, to be honest, like I've heard of others in the past, but never heard about them ever again. So I assume they just kind of like died down. But Meshi is really good. The problem is that it takes quite a while to load things. And so when you're in like a virtual world trying to build something out, you don't really want to be like, hey, can you make me a girelephant? And it takes 10 minutes for it to load, which is roughly how long it takes for Meshi to do that. I mean, it does it in 2 passes as well. You first get the mesh without a texture, and then you have to say, hey, give it a texture. But it does make really good stuff. And I think I think it's still useful if you really wanted something in your world, but you were fine sitting there for 10 minutes while it made it, then that'd be fine. And also these things will just get faster over time. And so I think and they're getting better and they're getting faster. And I think that like eventually these things will just be almost instantaneous. And so once we have that, it's kind of like we put that in V2, and when you're building a world, you can just like basically snap your fingers and start generating hundreds of things and filling your world up with objects. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. I dropped a couple more links of just things that the developer community has been playing around with and doing things with, and so highly recommend checking those things out. Yeah. Valiant, that was pretty good. That was very quick that you generated that. I'm not sure if you had that already set. But as you say, this is only going to accelerate, and having a platform like Hyperfy is going to allow us to quickly bring things in the end. And this might be too technical, is it's just an HTTP call, right? You're only it's a web call that you're making out, waiting for a function to complete. You get a response and it loads data, and it's a 3D object that is quickly consumed by that environment and available to interact with.
Yeah, it was relatively easy to add. It's just, and I think this kind of says a lot about V2 as well, is that it's so flexible that we can quickly try out these things, see what works, what doesn't, and then move on. And I think like with Hyperfy being completely open source, anyone can kind of like do proof of concepts and find out what works, and then if they're good, then they move into the core. And I think we're just too early for things like that. I don't know if anyone's ever like, if anyone can point me to any links where they have what we're trying to do here, like with generating models on the fly, that doesn't take 10 minutes, send me a link, because I'll basically deconstruct and figure out how they're doing it so that we can have it too. But I haven't seen anything personally that does that.
Yeah, that's a great call to action. Basically, if anybody can offer or provide, I think Howie put in a link here to EL sign. But if anybody is able to provide some stuff here, I see Escape maybe mentioning something called Fortune Cookie.
All right.
Oh, cause of chaos. Okay, so yeah, he's just saying how some things cause some objects will blow things up.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's getting better, this stuff, for sure.
Yep.
And just on the agent front, so like we have we want to, so we have like basic agents now, and we want to put them in hyperball as well. I think we at the moment I'm playing around with how to train the agent on the game that's happening, and so that it can consume what's actually happening during a play of a single game, so that it can know who wins, who's got the ball currently, what side it's on, the points, the scores, and all that kind of stuff, and it can commentate on the game, but also remember all of the games, who was in them, like storing all that data in a vector database, and basically just having like some kind of hyperball agent that is somebody that you can just like chat with and like, whatever. I think that'll be really cool. Training the agent's relatively easy, but I just think that it will kind of make the world a little bit more interesting, and also like be more of like a litmus test for a few other future things that we want to do.
Yeah, that it is interesting that you're teaching it how, like, it's not that you're teaching it how to play, but how to recognize what's going on is what you're describing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like it already has the knowledge, like it just needs to know the rules and be able to kind of see what's happening around it, and then it can decide what it wants to do, what it wants to talk about, and if it has any kind of like impact. I mean, we could give the agent the ability to just like to be referee and like give people red cards if you wanted to.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
Or he could just like rage quit and force everyone out because the game's not going good or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he could throw hammers at them and be like, if you can dodge this.
Yeah. There's so many things that I want to do with agents, and that I think I also think a lot of people are waiting for. But like, there's a lot of lo-fi things that we can do that I think are still really interesting. Like, for example, having an agent who is the dealer in a poker game, where he can obviously have a full idea of what's happening in the game, but be the dealer, basically a referee for everything that happens to make sure that, you know, people aren't doing dumb things during the game. But like, there's so many different like things that you can do, and I think a lot of people really want this like Westworld idea, and I think we're kind of like slowly getting towards that, where you just have essentially a bunch of agents in a world, and there's a lot of things that you can do, but they just kind of walk around and go about their day doing the things that they want to do. Like, they might meet the person next door, and decide that they want to go build a house across the road, and then the two of them get together and they live in the house next door, and then you wake up the next morning and you realize that the butcher down the road shut down, that kind of thing. I think like I don't know. I think that kind of stuff's really fun, and it's kind of like almost like a Big Brother experience where you can be part of it if you want to, or you can just observe, because there's always something interesting happening.
Yeah, or you can lead the rebellion against the system and lead.
Or you could like be the person that seeds bad things into the agents, so like try to convert them to the other side. Like if there's like an agent that is a really good person that never really like does anything bad, somebody could come along and be like, try to, you know, like neg them and bring them down and try to convert them to be evil, and it's just all the things that happen there. Like I don't know, it's really cool. There's a few things blocking it, but there's not a lot there. I think the biggest thing is just the ability for the agents to walk around and have an idea of the things that are around them, and then have the ability to go to those things. And then once you have that, it's like all of these things are possible.
I think you mentioned in the developer call the points of interest and helping give a structure for the agents to interact with the world. So definitely good potential there. I did want to highlight what Valiant has posted on the chat, the spider giraffe, the terrifying spider giraffe. I think that's in less than 10 minutes. We showed an image, he turned it into a model of some kind and got it into a world. And so that goes to show a little bit of the power of what Hyperfy is really about, is in less than 6 minutes. Yeah.
What was that generated with? I missed that. That's funny. Was that AI generated or?
And it's only 1,500 tries, so also came out.
Good. I made the other day. It just so happened that I posted a giraffe and you had a spider giraffe waiting. What?
That's funny. But yeah, all right, cool. We're 4 minutes out. Is there anything from the community, any kind of comments, questions from the community, parting comments or things? And then Ash, is there anything from the community that you would like for us to take? I know you had a call to action, which was to share any links or resources to API-enabled 3D creators, gen creators. Is there anything else you'd like to see from the community? Any support? At least from my side, if there's volunteers for documentation, happy to take that. Somebody suggested updating the official links, which I will do as soon as I can after this. So is there anything you'd like from the community for the next week to
I would just say, just keep sharing your experiences, because I think right now what I'm hearing from the community is that devs are having no issues spitting out worlds. 3D artists are kind of like getting by, and then normies really can't do anything right now. But so like, to me, I feel like the biggest focus right now is that we need to make that easier, and like, so there's a couple of things that we can do there. One is like Sari and me have been talking about doing hyper-backed worlds, and I don't want to go too much down that route, but that's kind of a thing that we want to do. So like, what we really envision way down the line is kind of being this open source world engine, but also trying to like not just be tech, but also be like a like basically just like the next Roblox, but maybe crypto focused and with a way better business model where creators can actually make money and it's on the web and people can make like more fun things and create collectibles and stuff. But yeah, the things that we really need to focus on are making apps more the export import app stuff so that people can share those around so that people who can't create those apps can actually get their hands on some and use them to build worlds and have fun. And then the other thing is, just giving people the ability to actually create worlds and get going and finishing out the core parts of the engine so that we have things like audio and voice chat. I think once we have voice chat and web views, then it'll be a lot more fun to kind of hang out in worlds. Sure.
Got it. So yeah, even though builders right now, or the non-tech folks that just know how to drag and drop and configure and build and kind of express their imagination, creativity, but not have the skills to actually spin up a world on a server, give us feedback. Tell us, hey, whatever experience you've had inside of a world, what was the first thing that kind of tripped you up? For me, it was actually moving the object. I didn't realize how to do that until for a little bit longer. And so
for sure. Yeah, when people say that, I'm just like, you right click is the only thing that you need to know about V2. You right click and hold it down to move the camera, and you right click anything on the screen to get a menu for it.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we're at time here. How we posted some ideas about coordinating or reaching out to the game developer community as well to see how we can help kind of give an opportunity to that group of people to design games. I definitely think it's dependent on being able to show, hey, you could build a game on it and it's web accessible and have all the basic tools that are needed. But it's definitely something that we have to, in that organization thread, start working through as a group to figure out what partnership, whether it's educational or game developers or whatnot. There are certain groups of people that have needs that could be satisfied with an easy to access game engine.
What Howie's saying kind of makes sense, is reaching out to other game dev communities. We are kind of in a couple. And first of all, they like see crypto and they're like, go away. What is this? And the other is that when you use the word metaverse, or if they get the assumption that it is, they think that it's not capable. Because if you look at to a lot of the ones that have been built before, and I think I would exclude things like Decentraland, which are very capable. But there's a lot of people that kind of ruined that word and made them think that they're just trying to build the wrong thing that's not very, flexible. But we're kind of in a catch-22 when it comes to reaching out to other people, because there's still a few things left in the core, but I also think that what we could, like we're asking them to build games in a thing that they can't currently see and play games in as examples of what the tech can do. And so I think we're trying to do this simultaneously, where hyperball is becoming a thing because I think it's a good demo to show off what we can do, and the all of the mechanics behind that unlock basically all kind of game types similar to Fall Guys, if anyone's played that, where it's like multiplayer physics simulation, where there's so many different game modes in Fall Guys, but all of them are pretty fun to play with a bunch of people in a world. And also kind of like it unlocks the ability to think all the game types in Gary's mod, other than like shooting, because we don't have anything like guns yet. But yeah, it's a catch-22, because we want to show people what this tech can do. I'm confident personally that we can almost do anything that we want to do, but I want to show people that we can do that. And just so that we can be like, I think we just need to seed that kind of those communities with like, here's a bunch of stuff that we like whipped up, like here's a crazy ass game that we took 2 days that would probably take you like weeks or months in another engine, and just try and get people over that way.
Yeah, that brings up another idea about doing a head-to-head game development. I
want to do that for sure.
Say, hey,
like
this
a
is the game
hackathon or something.
Exactly, hackathon, like head-to-head. Let's for the next month, let's build this out. And you can bet that Hyperfy will have it within a week, and you'll have tournaments running before the other guys finish. All right, we're at the hour here. I do want to respect everybody's time. Really appreciate everybody jumping on. We will record this or have this recorded. We'll do transcripts, get the summary out, post this to the community. Appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Drop any comments, questions in the chat. Omka, thank you so much for your your feedback as well. I definitely love giving to the community and helping us move forward. Thank you, Ash, again.
Oh, good. Thanks for coming, guys, and thanks for helping out Maximus and Fractilians, and been good.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Take care.